Welcome back to Collecting Issues, where this week we'll be taking a look at Local Man, collecting issues 1 to 13 of the 2023 comic by Tim Seeley and Tony Fleecs from Image Comics.
So the comic book education continues?
We're talking inappropriate comic books.
You're into comic books, aren't you?
That's comic book shit.
Like in the comic books.
Are we not doing 25 as well? Was 25 in the collected issue?
1 to 13 and 25.
Yeah, because that's confusing. Because if you just read collecting issues 1 to 25, you think, my God, have they gone mad at collecting issues, the monthly comic book podcast? Because how could they possibly read... We haven't. How could they possibly read 25 issues? But there's stuff going on. Benjamin.
Yeah.
Let me tell you this. I'll tell you this for nothing, right? First of all, up in our house, around our house, we use the term local legend. And we use the term local legend as a derogatory term for someone who's done something wrong and foolish. So, for example, you might see someone parked up on a curb blocking a wheelchair access, and you'll say, "Oh, look at this local legend."
Yeah.
So we've said that up in this house for a couple of years now at this stage, but it's never felt more apt than this comic.
Okay. Wow. So I think it's a play, Michael, genuinely, on the Local Man headline that appears everywhere across the States. As in, local man kills local legend in hunting accident.
Yes,
you know?
yes. Yeah, of course. Benjamin,
In this case.
I was a local man in a newspaper once. I broke up a fight in a shopping centre, and the newspaper credited me as the woman was stopped by a local man. So I was like, oh yeah, okay, I get it.
So you're Jack Leonard in this.
Yeah.
And you're flinging shields about the place.
People,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
whatnot. Benjamin,
People.
the other thing I'll tell you. Here's the other thing I'll tell you, Benjamin. I loved Matt Fraction's Hawkeye, My Wife is a Weapon, as much as the next man. But I couldn't eat a whole one.
That's another very Irish bending of a title of a thing. My wife
Oh,
is
I got
a
that wrong
weapon.
there, have I?
Yeah, you got that wrong, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't, but I wouldn't have a whole one, Benjamin. But I suppose if I only wanted to taste of one, this might be available.
This might be available, yeah. Okay. So, Michael's setting out his stall a little early
I'm
there.
setting out my
folks.
stall here.
So,
It is Christmas.
getting into this, it is. It's bloody coming up to Christmas. This is coming out on the 1st not the 1st of December, 3rd of December? 3rd of December. This is coming out to you. Get it into you. Nom 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 nom.
Warm you up for those winter
And,
nights.
Yeah, for those winter nights. And look, this is a bit of a critical darling since 2023, Michael. 13 issues, as you said. And I'm going to give you the elevator pitch now. But instead of us coming up with an elevator pitch, Michael, I'm going to give you the elevator pitch that the bloody gang came up with. Tony Fleecs, one of the
go on.
co-creators of this, came up with. And that pitch very much is, Michael,
Yeah.
a guy that used to be a 1990s Image comic superhero. Now it's today, and he's sort of cancelled and fired from his job as a superhero. He has to move home with his folks in the Midwest, and everybody in town hates him.
Yeah, everybody hates him. Benjamin, have you ever read Matt
hates him.
Faction's My Wife is a Weapon?
Yes, I have, Michael.
I think that's what happens in that.
Yeah, I think it is, yeah.
It pretty much
think
is,
it
isn't
He's
it?
pretty much pretty much a non-existent hero
Yeah.
at a certain point. And yeah, that is a little bit what happened, Michael. You got him.
I took him down a peg. Benjamin,
Yeah, you took him down a peg or two.
now, let me tell you something, right? Let me tell you
Go on.
something about this comic. I'm going to tell you something about the creative team behind this comic.
on.
Benjamin, I read a lot of
Yeah.
comic books. I do a monthly
You
comic
do?
book club. The whole bloody
What's it
room
called
here
again?
is Collecting Issues, the bi-monthly
Oh,
comic
very
book,
good.
book club. Benjamin, the
Very
whole
good.
room here is full of comic books. And famously, you'll know that one of my favourite comic book series is Invincible.
It is, yeah,
And-
you love it.
Yeah, I did. And I had a brain fart when I was reading this over the last couple of days. And for some reason, in my brain, I thought Tim Seeley was Corey Walker.
That's fair.
the co-creator of Invincible. And I was reading this guy. Oh, so this is what the guy who does the art on Invincible does when he's given his own thing to do. And why did I think that, Benjamin? I don't know. Did I look that up and check it? No, I didn't. Then, as I was reading, I went, oh, Tim Seeley's not Cory Walker. Tim Seeley's the guy who wrote Hack Slash. Benjamin, I've read every single issue of Hack Slash, and nothing in the history of collecting issues of the Comic Book Club has made something click in my head more than realizing this was from the creator of Hack Slash, not one of the co-creators of Invincible. I sat down and I said to myself, obviously. That
Obviously.
explains everything. No, I'm not complaining
does.
here, but
No.
my God, did it, Benjamin, explain everything.
But if you were going to go into something and expect Cory Walker, you would have to hope that there was some
Benjamin.
explanation behind why it's nothing like that.
The fucking helter-skelter that I was on with this comic, thinking it was from one of the co-creators of Invincible, starting off very much with the vibe of Matt Fraction's My Life as a Weapon.
Mm-hmm.
And then going, where's this going? What is going on? This is not what I expected at all. And then sitting down a couple of days later and going, oh, that Tim Seeley.
Yeah. Not co-creator of
Completely
Invincible.
And utterly clicked. I'll get into more about what I mean as we go through.
Yeah.
But it completely and utterly clicked and I went, now I get it.
Now you get it. Now it clicks.
Yes.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
you tell us about the creative team then.
So yeah, it's Tony Fleecs and Tim Seeley. Tony Fleecs and Tim Seeley are both, I suppose in their own ways, indie comics specialists, if you want, in very different disciplines, and that comes across in the art style here, Michael. So Tony Fleecs is probably most famous now for Strays. It featured in our 31 Tales of Terror over Halloween. Strays is the comic that I recommended to a lot of people, but not if you love animals.
Yes, it's about doggos.
Yeah, so spoilers for Strays. Listen away now if you don't want to deal with that. But Strays is essentially the story of a bunch of pets whose owners have been targeted by a serial killer. And it plays with the kind of goldfish memory of dogs and how they bond with people, and slowly reveals this over the course of a few different issues. He's also done Feral, Michael, which is a very popular comic from the point of view of pets again. He's done quite a few of those, and when you look at Tony Fleecs' background in comics, it's not hard to see where he got that, because for years and years and years, he wrote the My Little Pony comics.
Oh, very good. Yeah,
There's a weird curveball.
It's interesting that you've said kind of indie comics. They are and they aren't, because both of these guys, they're through Image, but they're G.I. Joe, Transformers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They're franchise guys.
They are franchise guys, big time. And
Big time franchise
I think
guys.
the more you read, the more that becomes apparent. These two guys have been inside the franchise model, have been inside the copyright wars, have been have been wading through licensing agreements for decades.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
they
it
have.
comes across in this.
That
It comes
says a lot.
across in this. Yeah, it comes across in this a lot. And then there's Tim Seeley. And Tim Seeley is, I suppose, as you said, probably best known for his own creator series, which was Hack Slash. Hack Slash was centered around Cassie Hack, Michael, who is a final girl who, I suppose, turns the tables, if you like, on serial killers across the globe and becomes the hunter of the hunter.
Yes, very much
In
so.
that sense.
Yeah.
And she's paired up with, I cannot remember the name of the
Vlad.
giant. Yeah, he's basically Jason, if Jason was Eastern European, and they team up together and pretty much hunt down serial killers around America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They basically hunt down slashers. It's a comic book about the final girl going after Freddy and Jason and Michael Myers and Pinhead and Ghostface and Leatherface and all of those type of characters I suppose, Art the Clown now, you could add. But obviously, non-brand specific versions of them.
Non-brand specific versions. Again,
Yeah.
probably hitting the nail on the head in this comic and answering a few questions that people might have when they read Local Man. And yeah, I think when we read this, these guys' ability to navigate the quagmire
Quagmire, yeah.
of
Giggity.
officially licensed characters
Yes.
is probably one of their greatest strengths, but possibly one of this comic's greatest weaknesses.
Oh, go
at
on.
different points. And what I mean by that is, I like this. Okay, I don't hate this at all. But what I found was, unlike Crossjack, this is hit and miss in places. For me.
Hey! Heyo!
See what I did there?
Little meta reference there. Shows you've read it.
Now, folks, if that kind of whip quick referencing is your cup of tea, you might like Collecting Issues, the monthly comic book club.
Yes.
And if you've been enjoying this so far, why don't you give us a follow wherever
Yes,
you're
please.
listening there?
Please
Go on.
do. Yeah,
Go on.
do.
Follow
Follow.
along. If you're listening to one of our Acast episodes, click follow there, and you can subscribe to our Acast feed and be updated when new episodes come out. We've loads of new episodes. We do loads of stuff with comics, guys. People like us. Comic creators like us. Come Find Me, October's spooky Halloween special, was one of our most listened to episodes ever. Not only by the average comic book Joe, but also by the creators of the bloody comic. Becky Cloonan listened to it and enjoyed it. Bloody Molly Mendoza listened to it and enjoyed it. Bloody Laura Del Rey listened to it and enjoyed it.
Ben was very happy. He was a very happy chappy.
I was very, very happy. And it's not a one-hit wonder, Michael. We only bloody did 20th Century Men, arguably one of the best comic books of the last 10 years, by Denise Camp and Stephen Morian. And who bloody found us on YouTube and listened and liked it, Michael? Stephen Morian.
Oh my God.
We're liked by comic book creators. Some might say listened to at least once by comic book creators.
Yeah.
So join that tiny little horde of people listening to the comic book podcast and sign up. And look, if you don't agree with us, if you don't like our opinion, leave us a comment. If you're listening on YouTube, go down there and tell us you don't like it. If you do agree with us, also leave us a comment and say that was some great stuff, lads. Fab.
Great
on.
opinions.
Give us a bit
Some of the
more
best
laughs.
opinions.
If you do enjoy that kind of thing, folks, just give us a follow, give us a review, give us a listen, and rate us. Give us a little rating there. Some person gave us 4 stars, and it's thrown off our whole average. And Mick was explaining small numbers to me, but I don't have a mind for math, so I just cried instead.
He's very upset. Don't rate it
I'm
4
very
stars. He'll be
upset.
very upset. Benjamin.
4.5. And a
Benjamin, who's doing the art and who's doing the writing in this comic book?
This is very important, Michael. They are co-creators when it comes to writing. And then, as you'll have noticed while we're reading through the world of Crossjack and third gen, as it were, Michael, it jumps between the present, which is Jack Xavier's disgrace, if you like, and the past, which is the glorified Image Comics version of things. Tony Fleecs handles the grounded Midwestern arc, the present, if you like. And Tim Seeley is the man aping the style of the classic 90s Image Comics that we saw back in the day.
Big hands, small feet.
Big hands, small feet. Never seeing the feet where possible, Michael. Hidden behind some rubble or some steam or some smoke where possible. You know? Classic stuff. Classic stuff. And that's probably an important bit of context there, Michael, because you've heard me mention Image Comics now 6 or 7 times, I'd say. And it's kind of a key to understanding what's going on here, because occasionally, Michael, and I think it's especially true after the first 6 issues, or the first arc, if you like, occasionally you're sat there going, who's this now? What the fuck is this? What's going on?
Yeah, who's real characters and who characters who've been made up for this? Who are actual references to 90s Image and who are meta, makey-uppy references to 90s Image? How would we know? What have you got there?
What's going on? Look at this. This is the giant omnibus of this, Michael. This collects issues 1 to 13 and the 2 specials, being Gold and
Girls.
issue 25. Yeah.
Does it
And
have
Bad Girls as well. It collects Bad Girls as well. You're right. It's the 2 specials and issue 25, which is the time jump. And thankfully,
Yes.
it does have a little guide to who's made up and who's not in the back. of
Oh,
the
that's
comic.
handy.
Yeah. So it turns out that a lot of these characters, Michael, are recycled concepts that Tim Seeley had back in the day
Ah, I see.
when he was working on other things. Crossjack himself was going to be a main character in something called Scaleros.
Okay.
Sure. And then Camo Crusader was going to appear in another one of Tim Seeley's creations, which was Love Bunny and Mr. Hell, a very 90s comic from back in the day that kind of established his love of the big brawny man and the sex pot that we saw in Hackslash.
Yes, yeah. One
Um,
of the classics, really, let's be honest.
One of the classics. So a few of them are there and they pop up here and there. But almost anything to do with 3rd Gen and the Desolators, Michael, are completely and utterly made up. The 3rd Gen creations and subsequently 1st Gen, 2nd Gen, and 4th Gen, they're all made up. They are there to parody the likes of Cyberforce and Wildcats when they belong to Image all
Gen
the way
13?
back in 1992. Gen 13 as well. Absolutely. So I suppose we can't really go much further, Michael, without me explain. Well, it doesn't have to be me, Michael. You were around in the 90s. You were reading comics in the 90s.
I bloody
So-
read them, Ben.
Yeah. So Image Comics was created in 1992, Michael, and it brought in, I suppose, what you would call the extreme era of comic books.
Yeah, it was X-Men is the most popular comic book in the world. Let's out X-Men. Everything is more X-Men than X-Men.
Yeah. Everything's very extreme.
Everything has crosses on it. Everything has yellow crosses on everything. Yeah, I see what you're doing.
Even the main character of our parody comic is going to be called Crossjack.
Yeah.
But come here to me. It's hard to properly sell the impact that Image Comics had on the creative industry of comics at that time. It was founded by 7 different guys, Michael, and these 7 different guys would become titans of their respective fields. They
Jim
were, I
Lee.
suppose. Jim Lee being the biggest. He's now the editor-in-chief of DC Comics. Jim Lee set out his stall back in the day with Image
Eric
Comics.
Larson.
Eric Larson, Mr. Savage Dragon himself, Michael, was there. Absolutely huge.
Rob
Bloody
Liefeld.
Rob Liefeld, Mr. I can't do hands or feet or much of any anatomy, but it won't stop me making an empire. Creator of Deadpool, Michael. Ridiculous.
Oh my god.
Ridiculous.
I can't remember who else was in this. Was Joe Madureira
So
or
there's-
was he later?
No, Joe Madureira isn't in it, Michael. The other groups that were there were, of course, I have
Yes.
it here in front of me. Don't
Go on.
disappear. I have
Get it
my
on your notes, Ben. Seamlessly.
Todd McFarlane. How could we
Todd
forget
McFarlane. Yeah.
Mr. Spawn, Todd McFarlane, Mark Silvestri,
yeah.
Top Cow Comics being his big one there, Michael. The Darkness, Witchblade,
Yeah.
all that jazz. Jim Valentino was there as well, Michael. And Wilche Portacio was there as well, Michael. So they were the 7 lads that kind of brought this together. And they were the extreme comic book guys. Everything was extreme. The heavy render era of comics brought in, and they kind of brought in the anti-hero and established it as this big thing. You know, Cable's era comes from this. X-Force comes from this. It's all the DNA of all those extreme teams. The lack of morals for superhero characters were brought in during that era, and it's all Image. And in some ways, Michael, this comic, Local Man, is both the tombstone of that era of extreme comics, and in some ways a beautiful love letter to how important it was for comic book creators to do that.
Benjamin, you son
Yeah.
of a bitch. I knew you were going to say this. Everything about this comic that I don't like. Everything about it that I don't like. And I like quite a lot of it, but there's some things I don't like about it. Every decision about this that I disagree with. Every plot point or every tone shift or every revelation where I went, oh, That's cringe. I knew you were going to say, no, no, no. It's a homage. This is how they did it. This is how they did it in the 90s. So I know you're saying that that's a rubbish reveal, but it's not, because it's actually a clever homage to how comics in the 90s were rubbish. But Benjamin, is it just rubbish? Or is it a clever homage?
Think so. I don't think so. I think so. I'm torn on this, Michael.
Go on.
There's a meta jumping off point for this comic, and I think the first 6 issues of this comic,
Yeah, the first arc,
which is
arc 1.
Yeah, which is Crossjack's return to the Midwest, to Farmington in the Midwest, right?
Yes.
I think that's some great comic book stuff. I think it's relatively innovative. I think it's a fun rural noir. I think it's a real look at modern American politics to some degree. And I think it's an interesting look at the 90s comic book publishing industry and how it was handled. To some degree, Michael, I think it feels like The Boys, but if The Boys was good.
Go, okay. Yeah, I mean, okay. Let's address a few points. First of all, yes, 100% agree. The first 6 issues, or the first arc more specifically, are definitely the strongest part of this. It has the most consistent tone. You could see why I briefly got mixed up and thought it was Corey Walker. It's a bit of a little bit of a, and the Matt Fraction thing as well, the Hawkeye thing. It's a very good representation of a past their prime, out on his ear superhero, going back to a very nicely rendered Midwestern world that he fits in with, but has left behind. And it all works. That all works very, very nicely.
Yeah. So just to clarify, because I made a slight error there, Michael, it's the first 5 issues, and they all came out in 2023. And then Gold is the jumping off point for the more meta commentary that comes in on 90s comics. Gold is the strange special where it felt like a Doctor Who special almost, where a past version of Crossjack appears and modern Jack Xavier has to contend with the absolute prick he used to be.
Yeah, he's no use. He's a bit of an arsehole.
I quite liked that. I thought that was this comic at its absolute peak. I thought those 5 issues and that one special were glorious. And you can split these up pretty effectively because Tony Fleecs intended it to do it that way. It's split up as one arc, one special, next arc, one special, final arc, final special, kind of. That was very much the intention behind it. So Bad Girls breaks up the arcs between 2 and 3, and then number 25 is the capstone for the entire thing. And I thought from that perspective, very, very solid, especially arc number 1. I like the world that he finds himself in. I think it's suitably dark, but also suitably humorous. I think the Uber driver who kicks it off with "fuck Crossjack,"
it's a great rallying cry for a comic book.
It's fabulous. It's a great mantra, and I like the fact that they don't hide that Jack Xavier is a prick. He was at one point. Crossjack was just a big glory hound, and he did abandon an entire town of people. And 100%. You know what? He's still a shitheel when he comes back, because the first thing he does when he gets back to Farmington is hook up with his ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, he just can't stop sleeping with people's wives. He's an absolute arsehole.
He's a piece of shit. And he's mean to his dad, and he's mean to his mum. And his mum and dad aren't great to him. But to be fair, he never called. He never wrote. He just abandoned them in Farmington.
You wouldn't, though, would you? They're arseholes.
But they kind of are and they kind of aren't. I think that's the double-edged sword that's being played with there. To some degree, this is Trump country.
Go on.
He is the victim of... Like, put it this way, right? If you were world famous, okay, cheating is not a real Hollywood scandal unless you find yourself in a community. No, I'll be clear on this. I'll break this down.
Okay, go on.
It's not cheating in Hollywood is not a career ender
Normal.
unless you are attempting to poll with the heartland of America, right?
Yeah.
And this can be backed up anywhere. If you cheat as a celebrity in the United States, but there's a good enough story to go behind it, Hollywood will prop you up and your cheating will be brushed under the rug to some degree, unless you find yourself in the Midwest and the Bible Belt, where morality is far more important to your star rising than it is to the thing. Because a lot of people hate Crossjack because he, broke the camo commander's heart by sleeping with his wife.
I saw this as a weakness of this comic, to be honest. So
Go on.
To harken back to My Life as a Weapon, I know it's My Life as a Weapon, by the way, but to harken back to it, Hawkeye is in the outs in that because he's basically taken he's eaten the bullet of having killed the Hulk. He knew he had to do a bad thing, and it was the hero Gotham needs, not the one it deserves moment.
Sure.
But I thought Crossjack's reason for being so hated was going to be something a hell of a lot more. Because it's just that he wanted him to do it. Does that
But
ever...
you see, that's not revealed.
Does
So
that ever
that's
get
the
drawn out, though? Does that ever get...
No.
It felt like, in a world of weird spandex interdimensional galactic baddies, it felt like a pretty weird reason for him to be out on his ear.
But see, I think that's... So I mentioned The Boys earlier, Michael, and I think that's what's happening here. In The Boys, Vought American is the PR company that handles everything to do with soups, right? Mm-hmm. And they sweep everything unsavory about soups under the rug. And in this, the term that's used is SPB, superpowered being. That's their metahuman or mutant, depending on which of the big two you read.
Or cyber, yeah, or whatever.
Or cyber, but they have the breakdowns there. Yeah, exactly. The scandal of it is that Crossjack becomes the scapegoat for an arrangement that was never supposed to be leaked to the public, and they would rather save Camo Commander and Neon's reputation than the rookie Crossjack. So if it had never leaked that Crossjack put Camo Commander in the cook chair necessarily, and it was done intentionally by Camo... Well, it was done intentionally by Camo Commander because Camo Commander wanted a son, and the arrangement that they had was that Crossjack would essentially be a surrogate donor of sorts to Neon.
Yes. Yeah.
But then Neon got rid of the baby, as is her right.
Not in this comic, apparently. Not according to these
Camo Commander,
people.
yeah, because Camo Commander is a Christian fundamentalist, and he doesn't like that. So he goes to the corporate sponsorship of the team and says, Crossjack is out.
Yeah.
Because I don't have a son. And that's what happens.
That's what happened, yes. He puts the mental in fundamentalist. You'll notice I've gone with he puts the mental in rather than he puts the fun in. Benjamin.
He definitely doesn't do that.
He definitely doesn't put the fun in. Benjamin.
Yeah.
Let's talk for a second, though, about the villain.
Which villain?
Exactly.
Okay.
So he can't stop cheating. He can't stop sleeping with people's wives. He just has a compulsion. He never gets over it.
Yeah.
He's an absolute arsehole.
Yes.
And then he hooks up with his ex-girlfriend, who's now married to the local police chief.
Inga. Is the ex-girlfriend.
And everything is very normal, and these are all normal people, and there's a touch of slice of life. And I forgot this was a Tim Seeley comic. And looking back, this is the most Tim Seeley-ish thing that happens in the whole thing. Because
he just keeps sleeping with people's wives.
Yeah. But people sleeping with people's wives, for example, one thing I like about this is older Inga is older. She's older.
Yeah.
She's a bit heavier. She's not super glamorous. She's not a comic book character. This
Yeah,
is
she's a Midwestern woman in her 40s.
yeah, it's photo referencey sort of stuff. It's it's you could
But it quite literally is, Michael. One of my favorite things about this, just to touch on that, is that it breaks down in the back of the book. Every single person here is based on a photo reference guide. It was done in a very old school fashion because it turns out that Tim Seeley and Tony Fleecs like to use photo references for people, and they have a full cast in the back.
Oh,
of the
do they
thing.
really?
Each character has their own photo reference, including right down to the wonderful little dog that exists.
Yeah, he died unfortunately. That's very sad.
He
Not in the
didn't.
comic
Get
book.
out of here.
He did the real
Yeah,
dog.
in
Yeah,
real
he died.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, don't
Yeah,
say that,
very sad.
Michael. That's
No, it's more sad that the real dog died than the character, Ben.
yeah,
Look, it happens.
yeah.
It happens.
It does.
Yeah,
It
he had a
does.
long and happy
But yeah,
life.
everybody has their own guide.
Yes. So anyway, where I was going with that is her turning out to be the evil mastermind who then facilitates wildly between arch criminally evil and actually doing it for the good of the town, or just the worst person, or you can have a healthy team up, is the most helter-skelter Tim Seeley-esque roller coaster. That was the bit that I went, I have read this before. I've read Tim Seeley arcs like this before, where someone turns out to be the villain, but maybe they're not, but they are, and issue to issue, you never know who she's going to be.
Yeah, Inga I found very difficult, unforgivable by the end of the arc.
Absolutely
Unforgivable.
mustache-twirlingly, cacklingly evil.
But I think even the comic itself struggles with that because there's one section, spoilers if you haven't read this comic, and you really
No.
should have read this comic. This
Yeah.
is Collecting Issues, the monthly book club. If you
what are
haven't,
you
go
doing?
away, read, and then come back. But
Yeah.
Inga murders Crossjack's dad.
Yeah.
And frankly, it is the last straw. It is irredeemable. It is disgraceful that she does this. Because not only does she do this flippantly, with no plan,
Just petty.
and it's referenced later when she's caught, and she says, "Why?" I can't remember if it's Neon who says it to her, or if it's her husband that says it to her. And I was like, "What was the plan there? Like, what were you trying to do?"
Why'd you do that?
Like, because it's just so clueless. It's just so woe-begotten and unprepared. But then, Crossjack doesn't follow through, and there's a very confusing part in the third arc of this, Michael, where I just went, "No, this woman is irredeemable. She's
She's the
very
baddie.
bad.
She's the baddie.
She's very bad. She's
Yeah.
the baddie."
Yeah.
And it's interesting, and she oscillates, as you said, between a kind of a corporate businesswoman gone mad, a Lex Luthor type,
Yeah.
and then a spurned lover. And yeah, it just doesn't work. But the first arc of this, Michael, as I said, before we move on to the second arc, which is the Seascape mythical arc, the first arc of this, Camo Commander's a great fucking lunatic. He's great. Liked that. Give me more of that. I didn't even mind the hammy, I can't have children, so this project will be my child thing. All for it. All grand. Great stuff. I love the cockiness of him. I love that he wears him down. And I love how he dies. My favourite thing about it is Crossjack can't use a bow and arrow because
Hilarious.
he's emotionally erectilely dysfunctional.
Yes.
Because he associates a bow with his dad, and that throws him off emotionally. He can't do it, right? And I love that he's aiming for Camel Commander's hand, and he just kills him. He just shoots him through the head.
Straight in the eye.
And that's it. And I like that. I thought that was excellent. I like the weird corporate coldness of swapping out superpowers with better models. Do you know what I mean? I liked all that. I thought it was all really, really good. And I even liked the second arc. Where the ghosts of that project come back to haunt them, quite literally in the form of Seascape, who becomes a demented being that seeks revenge. I liked it. I thought it was all very, very good. It was all very, very solid.
the issue and panel specifically where we first see Seascape in her twisted fae form coming up out of the lake as this weird kind of lady of the water swamp monster thing. It's like, oh, this is taking a turn. This is turned into a kind of country horror comic now, from being a pastiche of superheroes in general.
Yeah. And I wasn't against it because Gold does a nice job of broadening out the universe very wide. You know, Gold is the special in between where Crossjack runs into himself during a big, you know, universal threat, the likes of Identity Crisis or Civil
a big
War,
cosmic crossover.
or, you know, any of those, Annihilation, and anything like that we've seen from the big two. And I didn't mind that because it was broadened out sufficiently, and then we saw that there was room for absolute comic book shenanigans in this world, including meeting your younger self and just hating them. And I didn't mind that we were starting off on a bit of a horror pitch, a bit of a Swamp Thing note, a bit of a the darkness note at the beginning of that one. That was quite nicely done, and I liked that the sins of the past were coming back and that it was slowly being revealed that, you know, the horror elements were there in the first arc because the weird shape or the weird teleporting serial killer is quite unnerving.
He was great.
Yeah, he was great. So the horror elements are there. We saw the Void as well. The Void is an interesting concept. It's a reimagining of the symbiote, if you like, as something altogether more sinister.
The Fear.
To some degree. The Fear. Sorry, the Fear.
Void is from Sentry.
It is, yeah. But in the same context, like, you know, a symbiote being that...
The Fright? Was it
the Fright? It might be the Fright.
Yeah.
It's here somewhere.
We've read it. We've read it.
To Collecting Issues, the comic book where we don't read the comic and then just...
We did read it. It's the Fright, because she's called Frightscape, isn't she?
Frightside.
Frightside. Mr. Frightside. Very good.
Frightside is there. And look, all that stuff is interesting. You know, the insane, untamable elements of comics are established in that, and then they're broadened out in the second arc, where, as I said, the sins of the past come back, and Seascape pretty much desolates a town. She destroys Farmington, and it's all Inga's fault.
Yeah, there's a really weird scene in that where Inga is in demonstrating powers, and she's in like a blouse and a leather skirt, and she sets someone on fire with a cigarette. I'm like, who's this character now? Yeah,
it's like it's just insane, and it's not well built in that way, and it is the weakest part of this comic, and it's very annoying. Okay.
I disagree.
Well, anyway, Inga takes me out of it quite a bit now and then, and it's a shame because I really like parts of this comic, and I enjoyed the revenge arc, and I like corporate superheroes stuff when it's done well. I don't like it when it's not done well, but I like it when it's done well, and I thought this did it well, but Inga being a flip-flop villain was very difficult for me.
Let's not even get into how she ends up, Ben, because that's just madness.
Oh, it's madness. The third act of this is insane.
Pure, unadulterated Tim Seeley.
Yeah, pure, unadulterated Tim Seeley. Look, we make a joke on this podcast every once in a while. We've covered Dark Phoenix from the X-Men, and it's the author's thinly disguised fetish pops up a lot in this. But more and more as it goes on, I feel it's very grounded in parts, and then it just springboards occasionally. Bad Girls is a fucking terrible comic.
Go on.
It's a fucking so. Look, the second arc is pretty interesting. There's horror elements. There's some cult elements. Crossjack's powers get broadened into vagueness.
I like
but
that
it was
thing.
fun. It was Grant Morrison. It was breaking the fourth wall. There's some phenomenal work in the second arc of this comic. Crossjack's powers get broadened out from being accurate with anything to zoning in on what he needs to find. That's his power. He is a universal arrow that always hits the bullseye.
Yeah.
And that plays with some of the best of this comic. There's fourth wall breaking. He essentially gets sent on a spirit quest he gets doped up to the gills by a cult.
Yeah.
And he goes off, and there's some phenomenal stuff in it, Michael. Like, he walks through his own history, he walks through the gutters in his story, he finds himself in the background of works in progress. You know, he's there as a witness to all of it, and it's fabulous. It is exactly what I expected from this comic, and I enjoyed the fuck out of it. I thought it was great. That is where this comic really did its own thing, and I think it was all the better for it. And it's just a shame that, because again, I don't mind the Inga twist. Let me be very, very clear on that. Inga being the villain, I am fine with.
Me too.
It is the inconsistency of Inga's characterization as a villain that drives me mad.
Totally. Like, Inga being the villain actually is a pretty good twist.
It's great. It's good stuff.
Because she's so non-threatening. She's a, like, easily cheating Midwestern woman in her 40s that he's leaning on for comfort and emotional support or whatever. And then the twist that she's actually a bit of a mastermind, and after he left the town, she's spent her entire time becoming this, let's say, antagonist rather than villain.
Yeah.
Like, so she's okay. It gets a little bit weird into the kind of corporate selling on the powers and stuff. But okay, she's an entrepreneur. She's an evil entrepreneur. Fine.
And it makes sense. She franchises quite well, so it makes sense that would be something she could do.
Yeah, but then she starts lighting cigarettes and setting people on fire. Now that person, she knew that was going to happen, and that was a bit of drama. Maybe you could sell that.
Yeah,
but then there's just a callous murder of her friend, her own friend. She has a better relationship with Crossjack's dad than he does.
Yeah, I don't understand that at all. And she cites him as like a godsend to her, because he has always been there to dig her out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, why did you kill? But again, I think the comic itself really grapples with that. And I think in some ways, you know, the death of a father arc is a Superman trope. The death of Jonathan Kent is a canon event for Superman. And I think it's being played with here, because let's not forget, Superman is a Midwestern creation. He's, you know, he's a Kansas farm boy. But he is what Crossjack could never be. Do you know what I mean? In the ideal kind of Kansas son.
He's not.
And there's a little bit of that being played there. And I don't know if it's a comment from Fleecs and Sealey that, you know, killing off a dad is a waste. And maybe that's what's being done here. But I don't want to give it too much credit, because I don't know if it was pulled off well enough for me.
Yeah, very strange. Very, very weird.
You know?
And then the third arc. Okay, let's talk about the third arc with the...
Yeah, so I was just commenting there on
oh, sorry, go on.
The author's thinly veiled fetish and Bad Girls. Bad Girls is a blink and you'll miss it. It was all a dream narrative. And again, it plays with some of the tropes of the comic book, where there's an earth-shattering event, and when the heroes sort it, it gets reset, essentially, to a certain point. So actually what I really enjoyed there was that Neon tracks down. So after the events of the flood that happened with Seascape, culminating that arc, after the events of the flood, Inga does a runner. She's gone. Her husband finds out she's been cheating. It's a whole thing. So she just does a runner. She runs off to another diner somewhere, and Neon tracks her down. Neon tracks her down because she doesn't like that Inga was fucking around with Crossjack, because despite everything that's happened, Neon still quite fancies Crossjack and likes him and doesn't want to see him hurt. And they have a strange conversation and Neon reveals two things. Neon reveals, number one, that there was an event where every single male on the planet disappeared. And number two, she reveals her own origin story. And the origins...
A bloody football match was on. that's what they were all watching the footy.
That they were all watching the footy. To see what we did there, listeners. See what we did there. And Tim Seeley can't help himself in that comic once or twice. So the women get on with it, and there's kind of a World War II parallel where when the men were off at war, women stepped up and fulfilled all the roles. And essentially, all the female characters in this create a utopia. And then there are some very gratuitous scenes of female heroes from Image Comics history riding in a bathtub. And it's unnecessary and it's bizarre. And I didn't mind that. But there's a lot of gratuity taken in that particular special. And in the end, Michael, it goes nowhere because she essentially pulls a classic I'm going to take you out to the desert and execute you style thing. But then she just leaves Inga be. She's like, and I've told you all this about how sometimes you need to step up and just do the right thing, but I'm actually going to leave you alive. Because she tells the story of Seascape and where she came from. And it turns out that Seascape was a fairy god of some kind who then became a hero.
Yes.
And that was reset in the timeline. So this is why Seascape was different from all the other heroes, is because she's not a human with powers. She's some kind of mythical being that stepped into a hero role.
Yeah, I like that though, Ben, because that is foreshadowed right from the first appearance in the dossier, where when you see the dossier of Gen 4 or 4th Gen or whatever they're called, they all have real names and identities, but Seascape is redacted.
Yes, because she's not. She's an eldritch being of some kind that just wanders around. But what I disliked about that was the whole point of that story, Michael, is that sometimes heroes have to do something unsavory. And the way that's done in this comic is that the villain of the missing man escapade is the sixth wave, I think she's called, is in the sixth wave of extinction. And she's eliminated by this eldritch being that becomes Seascape. She's essentially drowned to a horrific level where her entire body is infused with water to breaking point, and somehow that resets everything. And when it resets, it goes back to the time before women took over the world and made it better. And that's just what happened. And that's fine. That is playing with comic book tropes. But what I hate is that after driving home this message of sometimes a hero's got to do what they got to do, she's like, all right, Inga, that's you. And if you step out of line even a little bit again, I'm telling Crossjack where you are.
Don't murder anyone's dad. Stop
Bullshit.
murdering people's dads.
Yeah. I felt that it gave me comic blue balls, Michael. I was like,
And that's what a lot of Tim Seeley comics are for. Benjamin, shut up for a second though, because the last arc 3, where they face the Faceless Hoard, pardon the pun, instantly, I completely forgot I was reading like what started as a Matt Fraction-esque home back to the hometown story, and it becomes something out of Agents of Hate, or what was that comic?
Agents of Hate, G.I. Joe, any of them. It's the Snake League in Invincible, or not the Snake League. What are they called? I can't remember.
Society?
Doesn't matter.
It's
Lizard
League.
Yeah, Lizard League. It's Hydra. It's the League of Assassins. Take your pick from any of the big comics over the last years. In this comic, it's called the Faceless Hoard. And again, it doesn't come out of nowhere. The Faceless Hoard is referenced constantly throughout the comic, but it gets weird. And again, I think it's a comment on how comics can go from a grounded reality to a fucking batshit crazy level of stakes.
Ben, what I was thinking was, right, this is like, do you remember Next Wave?
Yeah, we've done it. We covered it on this.
We covered it on this very podcast. So the Marvel comic by Warren Ellis, I think, and Stuart Immonen.
Yeah,
was that who they were?
Yeah.
And this arc, the last arc, where everything gets big and mythic, and it's not the real world anymore. It's not. Like, the hometown journey can't exist in this story, despite the fact it actually step by step goes back through the same places and gives us a kind of snake eating its tail sort of thing. This arc is like, we have Next Wave at home, Mom.
Sure. Okay.
It's like, is it a parody or is it not? Or is it just not great? Like, this reads as Agents of Hate was a comedy parody of these type of comic books by someone who doesn't write those type of comic books. This is a comedy parody of that type of comic book that is kind of indistinguishable whether this is in on the joke or not.
Yeah, because I think initially, here's the thing.
Yes.
Comedically, this is much stronger in the first arc than it is in the second and third. And the heartfelt element of the storytelling takes over in the second and third arc. And that's fine, because it's characters maturing, and I understand where that's coming from. But then, it's still trying to keep that parody tone, as you said. And I don't think it fits anymore, because the stakes are so elevated. His mum is on the line in the thing. The mum who's just lost the husband and very clearly fallen apart. Like, it's so strange, because it's heartbreaking, because we do, you know, you can critique Crossjack's parents for being mean people or, you know, whatever, but they feel very real. And
They
we've
certainly don't
grown
put
with
the fun
those.
in fundamentalist spin.
They certainly don't, Michael. They don't. But nor do they put the mental. They're just they're just
common
disappointed parents.
Yeah.
They're just disappointed parents.
I know. I've seen that
And-
look, Benjamin, 1,000 times.
Yeah, sure. Look, it's pretty much daily for me as well. But look,
Oh, I meant from
In-
your
in the-
parents, Ben.
yeah, no, they're very disapproving of you. They really
hate
don't
this-
know what we're
they hate
doing
this
with
podcast,
microphones.
Yeah, they hate it.
They keep saying that microphones are a gateway drug or something. I don't
Yeah.
understand. They keep saying it to me. But it's so devastating towards the end of this. And I liked it. Like, here's the thing, right?
Go on.
If this had been the grounding kind of style of arc 1, this would have had a real impact to it. But it's the fact that all of a sudden it's the grounded investment that we've made in the town of Farmington combined with the out there batshit comic shenanigans of cosmic events, right? And they don't mesh very well together. Because, to be honest, the Faceless Hoard being a cult that turns ordinary people into terrorists and kind of they usurp like Christianity or something in the heartland, essentially.
Yeah.
It's all very rushed. And I hated that it didn't creep in or that it didn't grow steadily, because there was a chance there. So there's the Horde, the Faceless Horde, and then there's the head of the Faceless Horde. The Baron Zemo of it all is called the Price. And I hate that the Price wasn't a character from the beginning of the comic.
Shelley. It was Shelley, whoever the fuck that was.
So Shelley is introduced in a throwaway thing, but I think that's the point. Is, you know, it could be anybody. I think that's the point. But they missed an opportunity there to make it, I don't know, the actual pastor from the start of the comic, or
The
to
priest who he
make it
saved, yeah.
the priest to be saved. Do you know what I mean? It missed that opportunity to make
Inga.
it that, or the Uber driver, or Inga. Just make it Inga. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It just felt very rushed, and I don't know if that's because sales of the comic were dwindling.
Yeah,
Because
and
it
time to go.
didn't sell well as a comic, you know? And I think they might have had to rush their third act. And it's just a shame, because I think the seeds or the foundations of a really solid rural noir that deconstructed or looked at the real stakes behind cosmic events was missed. I don't know. It was frustrating for me.
It's, as someone who reads a lot of Tim Seeley stuff, it's the most Tim Seeleyest thing that's ever happened.
Oh, really?
It's so like Hack Slash. So Hack Slash starts off with the kind of concept of there's a girl, she turns out to be the final girl. It's her mom is the serial killer, and she has to kill her mother. And then she teams up with this kind of freakish guy who looks like a slasher, but he isn't. And they go and do a kind of supernatural Sam and Dean, go and investigate other slashers. And it wildly helter-skelters between, okay, now there's a serial killer, and we're going to spend 4 issues tracking this serial killer, and it's going to be tight and kind of grounded, and then time for mythology. So actually all slashers come from the source of slashers, and they're infected by this spirit, and we're in a world-ending slasher apocalypse. But next week we're going to team up with Elvira.
Yeah.
And it's all Tim Seeley comics are like that. They're conceptually great, artistically hilarious, but they're not. This is where it clicked for me after reading the 14 issues, I suppose. I just went, I shouldn't have been expecting cohesive narrative progression in this.
Yeah.
Helter-skelter is the word for it.
And I think it comes back down to maybe the history of Tony Fleecs and Tim Seeley working in licensed comics. Because licensed comics are like that. I don't know if you've ever read any of the Army of Darkness tie-in comics.
They're great
anything
examples
like
of
that.
what I mean, yeah.
It is exactly what you're saying. They're not there for narrative coherence. They're there for a good time.
Yeah.
And I think if I hadn't been set up for narrative coherence in the first arc, I might have enjoyed the end of arc 2 and arc 3 all the more. Because I didn't mind Gold as a special. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
But it's a shame because arc 1 to me is phenomenal. Like it's great. I loved it. I loved book 1 of this. The first 5 issues.
I think we've done ourselves a disservice, Ben. I think that it's our fault that we didn't enjoy 2 and 3 here. Because arc 1 feels prestige-y.
Yeah.
The idea of the different timeline, the different art style for the 2 different types of comics, the grounded realism, the fabulous grounded realism of the town setting. It feels
Farmington
like a prestige.
is amazing.
Yeah, it feels like a prestige TPB, trade paperback story.
Yes.
And by the end of it, it doesn't. By the end of it, issues 10, 11, 12, 13 would be right at home in my collection, my massive pile of Tim Seeley comics that I've read once and gone, what the fuck was that about? That was gas. And then just put it in a pile and never thought about it again. I think this is a better comic if the issues past 6 don't exist. I think if we did a collecting issues of the trade paperback version rather than the omnibus,
Volume 1,
Volume 1, we would be raving about this. And Volume 2, we would go, wasn't as good, was it? It was all right, but it wasn't as good. I like some of it. And then Volume 3 would be like, what the fuck happened there? What?
Yeah. And if we'd done this in volumes, I think it would have been very, very different. But it's such a shame because I think even 25 struggles, right? So 25 is issue 14 technically, right? And it plays with something that Image Comics did back in the 90s. It's called Tomorrow's Timeline, I think was the event. And essentially all of their comics took a time jump. That's what it was. And it's kind of a manga tradition. It's something that happens in a lot of mangas. One Piece does it as well. They do a time jump. And it was playing with that. And it's a year later essentially from the events of Arc 3. And for some reason Crossjack's mum is back alive. I think because Inga sacrifices herself at the end of Arc 3 and essentially brings her back.
I suppose she doesn't get shot
in the head.
Yeah. No, she gets
shot
stabbed.
in the head, though.
She gets stabbed.
She gets stabbed in the head. Yeah.
You can survive getting
But
stabbed
anyway,
in the head.
I don't know. I'm not going to try it. But anyway.
No, don't. But I mean, you can. It's a comic book world as well.
Yeah, it's a comic book world. But anyway, Inga ends up dying because she took Spawn's powers. And I thought that was a nice weird
Wild
thing. Wild.
How did she do
gets
that?
Spawn's powers. And she gets summoned by a demon and told, "Oi, our
Spawn's
culture
powers?
is not a costume, buddy. Our culture is not a costume. This is going to cost you." And Inga goes to hell.
Yeah.
And maybe that's her ultimate punishment. Maybe that's how the creators drove that home, you know? But look, the issue 25 is weird because it features the poorer girl who was lit on fire because she oozes petroleum.
Slick
That's her
2.
superpower. Slick 2.0.
Mhm.
She gets out of prison because she killed former vice president when he was
Quayle.
trying to use the fright.
That's-
And Dan Quayle is a real person, by the way.
Yeah.
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 He's the
That's one of the Tim Seeliest moments of the whole thing.
yeah.
Because all of a sudden, this is a conspiracy that involves a real life person, and he dies slipping down the stairs on grease. What the fuck?
Yeah. Dan Quayle is the creator of the Dynamo 5, which was an Image Comics hero series.
Yeah.
And he just pops up as former Vice President Dan Quayle. And it's pretty interesting. And he's trying to extract the fright. And again, I think if we look through the lens of deconstructing comic book tropes, it's
Ben.
the idea of yes.
Dan Quayle is a real former vice president. He's not a comic book creator.
Is he? He's a comic book creator,
Yeah.
is he not?
No, maybe there's a comic book creator also.
Hang on. God, this is so confusing. Sorry, we should have known. Oh, Dan Quayle is a former Vice President of the United States. What the fuck?
Yeah, Dan. I didn't know where you were going there. I thought you were doing a bit.
What the fuck?
Yeah, no, it's really weird.
Oh, Dan Quayle used to feature in comic books
Ah, okay. Yeah, in
as
Image
a
Comics
parody
in the 90s.
in
Yeah.
the 90s.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fucking mad. Wildstorm's Dan Quayle.
Yeah.
That's bizarre. So Dan Quayle is a real US Vice President, but he was also an antagonist in Wildcats comics in 1992.
Yeah, he's in it. Like in one of the flashback scenes, he's in it. He's the red-haired vice president man.
And he was possessed by a demon. Yeah.
It's gas.
That's fucking mad.
This is
That's
something I
mad.
struggled with in this comic actually, because I've read a bit of Image, but I'm not in deep in it. So a lot of it I was going, did this happen? If they did this for Wildstorm, which they kind of did, and I know
Yeah.
Wildstorm was Image, but if they did this for Wildstorm, I would have got it more because I read a lot of Wildstorm. But I
See, they
didn't
couldn't
really
do
read-
that because DC bought the rights back. So DC bought the rights to Wildstorm, and so they couldn't bring in characters like Grifter.
Yeah.
And Crossjack is Grifter. Like that's kind of, you know.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of that going on. So it's interesting. Look, we're getting close to the closing time here, Michael. So I liked this, right? But I liked the first part of it more than I could possibly like the second part.
Yeah.
There are moments in this, Michael, that are fantastic. I think in terms of grounded storytelling, his interactions with the Uber driver are fucking magic.
Great stuff.
I enjoy it. I enjoy the pacing is phenomenal. Tony Fleecs does a phenomenal job of the artwork in those scenes,
Oh.
the pacing of those
Mwah.
scenes. Like his conversations with the Uber driver buying the Black Beauty, you know, phenomenal stuff. The Uber driver providing the solution of the iron horseshoes because him and his brother
Great
are playing
stuff.
a lot of D&D.
D&D. Fabulous. I love the
Chef's kiss.
interactions with the fundamentalist cop. I love when
Yeah.
he's figured out his new power, and then Slick 2.0 says, "Is that your superpower? You can get idiots to believe you."
they're both just looking at each other going, Jesus
Great.
Christ.
It's full of great moments like that.
That's good. And,
Yeah.
you know, him trying to be a good guy in Arc 1 is phenomenal and constantly fucking it up. Him talking to the sheriff, him revealing to the sheriff that he's been fucking his wife after he goes on a fucking weird peyote bender, has a conversation with her, and forgets the sheriff is standing behind him while he's on the phone.
Yeah.
What?
Great stuff. In fact,
great.
all of the interactions with that chief of police character with Brian are good. Even when he's in the silly armor at the end.
Yeah. It's great.
It's all that.
This is
stuff
what I
all
mean.
good. And there are some great panels too. Like
Oh, the art is great.
Yeah.
I'm not going to fault the art here, Michael. They do a great job of blending the actual 90s Image comic style. Tim Seeley does a great job of mimicking that style.
Well,
it's really
that is his
good.
style, isn't it? That's what Hack
Yeah.
Slash looks like most
Yeah.
of the time.
Yeah, and even the colorists do a phenomenal job of bringing those color palettes in. There's a few different colorists on the comic over the course of its run. That's all great. The grounded rural stuff is great. That's all fantastic. One of my favorite panels in this, Michael, is in the third arc. It's
the Spawn one?
It's the Spawn one is good, but it's this one here.
That's
This is a
incredible,
cable
yeah.
panel.
Apropos of nothing.
Apropos of nothing. But my favorite thing about it, Michael, is right at the bottom corner is the Uber driver holding Pepper going, no one's going to believe this.
Yeah,
And it's fucking great.
And then I really like the next scene after that where he disarms the cops without killing them.
yeah,
and
he
that's
pulls
again-
a Hawkeye.
He pulls a Hawkeye.
He's a
That's
little-
very Matt Fraction-y again. Like that whole
Very Matt
scene is-
Fraction-y again.
Yeah. That's great. That stuff's great.
But I was sitting next to my good lady friend reading it. And I said, oh, look at this. And I had to explain to her why it was so great. I was like, this is Cable. And she was like, who's Cable? And I was like, this is Cable. They're doing a Cable.
They're doing a big cable.
They're
Listen,
doing a
please.
big Cable. You
Yeah.
don't understand. And she gave me one of those classic looks, which has now become very, very similar to my parents' disappointed face, which
Oh,
was,
yes, yeah.
that's nice, dear. That's nice, dear. Other look that I'm intimately familiar with at this point.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Every once in a while, this comic shines. Like, I like some of the parodies. I like some of the back panels. I like some of the out there heroes got lost in an alternate dimension, so you rode his wife while he sat outside the
Non-stop.
tent looking up at the stars.
Non-stop. Just stop
Gas.
writing people's wives. Even the new Monk bit where he's writing a new person's wife is like, oh my god,
Ridiculous.
this guy never learns.
Ridiculous. There's a scene where he's like, who is that? Oh, I don't know, but I'm going to find out. And I was just like,
Oh.
Crossjack, no.
You arsehole. You.
Crossjack, you've learned nothing.
He's learned nothing, Benjamin. He's an arsehole.
He's learned nothing. And it's interesting because I guess that's what issue 25 is all about, is he's about to go down the same hole of attention-seeking, glory-hounding, because Neon comes back and she's like, you're back on the team.
You're back
Chief.
on the team.
Get in here. And he
Ben, we forgot to talk about Sharp Fingers. He's an arsehole as well.
Sharp Fingers is a real dick bag. What's he called? Cyberclaw or
I can't remember.
I can't remember. Anyway, he's a dick.
Sorry.
Um,
Neon, you were saying. You're back on the team.
Yeah, Neon, you're back on the team, and he jumps right back into it and
Yeah.
straight into the old pattern. And I even thought that was interesting because it's only been a year, so he hasn't changed that much, and he kind of has to confront it again. He's given a fresh opportunity to be a good person. And I think all that's great. I think the character work, the dialogue, the quiet moments in the present rural town, phenomenal. Really, really strong. And I hate to say it, but the springboard into comic book shenanigans occasionally just derails it completely. And kind of
Unbelievably
threw
so,
me
yeah.
off.
Honestly, Ben, can I give a recommendation for
Go on.
this? If you've made it this far and you haven't read this comic, pick up Volume 1.
Yeah.
Just pick
Yeah.
up Volume 1. Just get it. And put Volume 1
And
on
then
your
walk
shelf.
away.
Put Volume 1 on your shelf along with your best breakdowns and pastiches of superheroes. Put it on your shelf
Yeah.
beside your Life as a Weapon. Put it on your shelf beside your... What are other good ones, Ben? Don't put The Boys on your shelf. It's rubbish. Ben.
Boys,
Ben, this does have one of the funniest, unexpected arsehole shots I've ever seen in comic books.
Go on.
When he's high on the drugs and he thinks that Inga sends him the selfie of her arse, and it's a donut, and that is so funny. And the pathetic dick
He
pic
sends
that he
back a
sends
dick
back,
pic, and she's like, "What the fuck?"
it's so good. It is. He's such an arsehole. It's so irredeemable, and it's the comic timing
this-
of that is incredible.
Phenomenal. But this does to 90s comics what Watchmen did to the Golden Age.
No, it doesn't.
It is, well, not with the same level of success, but that's what's being attempted. And I think book 1, volume 1, does a great job with that. If you need some closure, go and pick up volume 2,
Yeah.
but don't expect it to be the same level of magnum opus, and then leave it.
Yeah,
That's
just leave
it.
it.
Don't add any more to your cart. It's
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
It finishes with volume 2. Inga runs away. The end. And Crossjack gets a redeeming arc. He saved people. He picked up his hero's life again. He kind of helps the new generation in Slick 2.0. The end.
Yeah.
And then imagine that it's Crossjack and the Uber driver saving Farmington again and again and again. And that's it. That's it for this week's episode of Collecting Issues.
Yeah, all right.
That's it.
Sweet.
That's it. We're coming into Christmas, Michael.
Oh,
Here on Collecting Issues. And rather than do anything Christmassy, Michael, what we're going to do instead, because we're on a tighter timeline, you're listening to this on the 3rd of December, folks, which is already too late into December for me. And we're not actually going to do a big read because we won't have time to read it all because we're hoping to get this episode out before Christmas, right? So the next thing that we're covering is actually a brand new digital release from IDW, Michael. It's called Tuha by Gavin Fullerton. And it's only a bloody Irish myth push. Think about bloody if Hellboy met bloody Saga. Think of it that way. It's good stuff. There's Irish myth and stuff like that. So we're going to take a look at Tuha. It's a one-shot from Gavin Fullerton here in Ireland. It's written by an actual Irishman and drawn by an actual Irishman. So that's great. And it's from IDW. He's done some work on Over the Garden Wall and Transformers, Michael. You like Transformers.
I do like Transformers, Benjamin. Who's done
You
it?
do. A guy called Gavin Fullerton.
Oh, very good.
And it's pretty much it's a bit of a masterclass. It's Hellboy meets Headlopper meets Hack and Slash meets Conan. It's great stuff. Great stuff. And we're going to take a look at that for December rather than try and take on anything big, Michael, because it's the Christmas season and who has time?
Who has time? Not
But
us.
come here to me. If you've made it this far, this is probably the most critical episode of the new wave of Collecting Issues that we've had in a long time. But we really did enjoy this. We only read comics that we enjoy. And if you enjoyed some of this as well, why don't you hop up on the Discord, give us a review wherever you listen, or follow along for the next one. We've a back catalogue now. We've been back for just over a year, folks. And that means that we have a back catalogue of some really fantastic comics that have come out over the last year and beyond. We've got Zatanna. We've got horror anthologies from the likes of Becky Cloonan. We've got magnum opus works that do match up to the level of Watchmen in the likes of 20th Century Men. We cover classic Marvel comics like Daredevil Born Again. You'll find them all linked down below or during the course of this video if you're watching on YouTube. It's all great stuff. But for now, we're done. We're done.
Oh, that's
We're
it.
out of here.
Okay. See you in a couple of
That's it.
weeks for
Bye-bye.
Tuha. Bye.
Tuha.
Tuha.